Ever since its release in 2011, Dark Souls has become one of the most recognizable games of the modern day. It sits among the ranks of Black Myth Wukong, Dead Rising 4, and Star Wars Outlaws as one of the hardest games to play to completion of our age, and with good reason. But I've come to grow tired of how everybody who does challenge runs for these games always uses cheap methods to win, like summons, magic, and pressing buttons, so I wanted to create a run that would let me say that I've truly beaten the game the intended way. I've played this game with many different builds, including a naked guy with just the Dragon Greatsword, an ultralight ninja that uses Quelaag's Fury Sword with pyromancies, a giant dad with the +5 Chaos Zweihander, and more, but after all of these runs I realized that I never played the game properly, and this run is intended to fix that. I hear a lot of people describe this game as difficult but fair, so it's time to ask the question: can you beat Dark Souls? I begin this character by letting the game know what I think of it, as well as pick the best class, best starting gift, and massive head to accommodate my gigantic brain, then pick my beef jerky butt off the ground to get this run started. The Asylum goes as it always does, including giving Oscar some head pats for kindly donating his Estus flask, and then the Asylum demon goes down without me taking any damage. I just poured 3 Estuses on the ground during the fight, I swear. With the demon slain and the power of lightning still on my side, I beat the piss out of this guy because as a gamer I'm allergic to sunlight and nab his shield when I'm done. I only need 12 strength and dexterity for the weapons I'm going to use, so with those minimum requirements satisfied, I can put the remaining levels into the most important stat in the game: resistance. Veterans of this game know where this bit is going, so we'll just skip to the end where I receive my reward: the Drake Sword. It has a respectable base damage of 200, and I can meet the strength requirement if I two-hand it right now, so with my newfound power I go and curb stomp the Black Knight just after the Sunlight Altar, along with the handfuls of other enemies around him with absolutely no trouble, as shown here. Upgrading the Drake Sword requires Dragon Scales and 10,000 souls per level, which is a fair bit, but I can work towards that as I go, so my next destination is to return to the Undead Asylum to do some cleanup, thanks to a few new things that have showed up there. With my weapon of choice in hand now, I have no issues taking out Oscar or the Black Knights to grab the Rusted Iron Ring so I can deal with Frametown, take out Stray Demon, which I did on my first try and took 5 minutes because I was playing carefully and not because my weapon's actually a piece of shit or anything. The last thing I need is the Peculiar Doll, so after going through the Black Knight guarding my old cell, I grab that and go back to Firelink. This new set of armor I got from somewhere earlier is a bit too heavy for me, so the best I can do right now is the helmet and pants, so with the new fashion souls partially on, the gargoyles become my next target. I free Knight Lautrec, who guarantees a reward only later, and how could I distrust such a fine looking chap? So with my good deed done for the day, I knock on the gargoyle's door. Even without any upgrades, it proves to be more than a match for them, with a single two-handed light attack doing over 150 damage, and missing the tail is not a surprise when you're up against such an easy boss. I ring the first bell of awakening and go chat to Oswald so I can pick up the Poison Bite ring just in case any game developers think it's fun to put any movement speed hindering poison swamps in their game, and then take a short detour to kill a prowling demon for the extra souls. Naturally, since I'm melee focused, I have to wait for this fucker to land, but the Crest Shield blocks 80% magic damage, so as long as I hold that up in the meantime, this boss doesn't pose a threat at all and just becomes a waiting game. I was hoping that I'd be able to finish it off with a salvo of firebombs, but I ran out right before its health bar did, but even then it tries its best to imitate the Resident Evil laser room and then dies miserably. On my way back to the parish, everything I've killed has given me enough souls to afford the Crest of Artorias, and with the Watchtower basement key also in hand, I can go fight Sif as well as say hi to Havel, but from the other side this time. With his ring replacing my blue Tearstone ring, I now have enough equip load to wear the rest of that Sun Dude's armor, so the added damage reduction gives me a slight edge on my way through the forest to Sif. I make sure to join the Forest Gankers Covenant so I don't get fucked mercilessly by the guys running after me, and pick up the Enchanted Ember for no good reason, popping a Mushroom Punch to the face for my efforts. Totally worth it. Inside Sif's arena you can keep a small distance from the gravestone in the center to not trigger the Sif fight early and nab the Hornet Ring completely unmolested, then circle back to the front to get things started. The Drake Sword plus careful positioning so Sif can almost never hit me continue to carry me nicely through this fight, and after 2 solid minutes of head pats, Sif joins the Great Peter Killhouse in the sky. Back at Firelink Shrine, Lautrec gives me a gold coin donation, oh how sweet of him, and the journey to Blighttown the normal way begins. I make my way into the slums to clear out the local population, and use the handy jump attack trick to kill the hollow thieves through the closed doors, which turns a 3v1 into a 1v1. Capra Demon is next, and instead of filling his boss arena with dung pies like he deserves, I have to go in to deal with him and his chihuahuas directly. This takes a little while because this is a genuinely fair and difficult boss fight or something, but on my 3rd attempt I managed to pull the Depths Key out of his rectum and then go right in. Before taking on the next boss, it's a good idea to kill the channeler up top, otherwise Gaping Dragon's shitboxes can clip you when you're nowhere near it and tear off 5 bars of health. So with him out of the way, I hug the left wall down the water slide so I don't have to go through Cursed Lizard Hell, and open up the path to the bonfire. On the way back, I get my head bitten off by a rat skillfully jumping through a door. Then on my return trip, Gaping Dragon eats my weapon durability more than anything, so after spending a good 5 minutes hacking away at its ankles, it dies and drops the key to Blighttown. The locals were incredibly friendly all the way up until I got windshield wipered to death by the wall parasite that's guarding power within. Then I died to fall damage because I've never played a video game before, I guess, which at least means that I have nothing to lose when the parasite kills me again. I haven't taken this path through Blighttown in years, obviously because it's such a good area that I want to enhance the experience of returning to it even more by only doing so every once in a while, instead of every single time I play the game. It's just so much fucking fun. I fucking love it here. Fucking thank you, Miyazaki. There's a dragon scale in the chest at the end of the tunnel here, which is the upgrade material the Drake Sword uses, so I make sure to pick that up before she turns up, and then when she does, I manage one Hornet Ring enhanced riposte along with an accidental double kill as I'm trying to swat down a nearby mosquito. As I'm making my way through the obligatory poison swamp, I get naked and throw on the poison bite ring and trek through what I found to be the safest path to the Quelaag, then throw all of my armor back on before entering the boss fog. As all Souls veterans do, I summon the NPC here because the fight against Quelaag is almost as hard as I am when I'm fighting Quelaag, so I need all the help I can get, and amazingly, we pull through on our first attempt. I ring the bell and head down to take on Ceaseless Discharge for an easy 20,000 souls. Taking the same path back to the bonfire, I take a short detour to the Great Hollow to pick up a second copy of the best shield in the game. Hell yeah, now we're talking. The double plank shield is too powerful to be wielded for more than a short time, so I take both of those off and resume my journey. After successfully making it to Ash Lake without dying a single time or very obviously lying about my deaths in this segment, I go around the area to try and gather the dragon scales around here and give the Hydra a good old college try before deciding that I'd rather do absolutely anything else and continuing on to the Stone Dragon bonfire. I've gotten everything I wanted from this area, the random Hydro pump from the nearby Hydra is optional, and I now begin the very fun return trip. The old walk over the bit that looks like you can't walk across it but you absolutely can trick from the original still works in the remaster, so using that I head up through Blighttown so I can take the Firelink shortcut out. On the way there, I successfully retrieve the Firekeeper soul without anything going wrong and pick up what's left of the Firekeeper. That douchebag and his piss-coloured armor will pay dearly for this. I pick up the Ring of Steel protection in case this potato sack somehow doesn't provide enough damage protection, and take the safe path through the boulder trap area where the Black Sorcerer set is. I guess this snake man decided to use his fangs to staple himself to the wall above the doorway while I was gone, so I'll leave him alone in his dying wish while I go up to the boulder mechanism to point it in a safe direction. He's another enemy who can insta-backstab you much like the thieves in Lauren Deadberg and the Painting Guardians and Anal Rodeo, so it's best to deal with them one-on-one by locking on and backpedaling. One riposte isn't enough to kill one, so a cherry tap finishes the job for the Flame Stoneplate ring, and now that my resistance is at the optimal soft cap of 40, it's time to raise less important stats like my max health, I guess. This prick is blocking a rare Ring of Sacrifice and a Divine Blessing, so after bringing him to a more favourable arena, I give him the traditional United Kingdom greeting and loot the room behind his post. Iron Tarkus, the man, the myth, the legend himself, who can easily solo this boss, comes with me to get a warm-up on the giant that tosses firebombs while I'm trying to fight it. Unsurprisingly, the giant goes down no problem at all, although it's 90% Tarkus' doing, which bodes well for this fight. Apparently neither of us were aware of Iron Golem's grab attack since we both got hit by it back to back, luckily never getting thrown off the arena, but Tarkus continues to impress me by single-handedly bringing the Iron Golem to its knees while I'm healing. Good job, Tarkus. You're the hero that Dark Souls doesn't deserve. I'm out of Estus, so I take a quick journey back to the bonfire to replenish that and upgrade the Drake Sword one more time, then start making a trip to the Darkroot Garden to try the much easier Hydra here because I'm greedy and want dragon scales, and to unlock the DLC, which I'm saving for later. He's a bit of a moron and attacks way the hell away from where you are even if you're standing still, so as a last resort, I decide to go with the backup plan of whipping out a bow to finish it off. With ONS not far away and with me already in the mainland of Lordran, I decide now is the best time for me to go into the catacombs to take out Pinwheel. I swear the regular enemies here are harder than the fucking boss of it. There isn't even a joke here. I watched this boss get two-shotted by a Lightning Zweihander in this game's early days, so I'm not going to struggle with a +3 Drake Sword. A Homeward Bone and a few humanities later, I fully kindle the Undead Parish bonfire for a whopping 20 Estus charges, and go to do some extra prep work. The Valley of Drakes has an undead dragon guarding a few things, so after a brief fight, he goes down and coughs up his scale. You'd think an entire dragon would drop more than one scale when you kill it, but sure, I guess I'll just go fuck myself in this little hidey hole. Yeah, just like that. Giving up on dragon scale farming, I instead decide to head into Anor Londo to get the inevitable ONS fight out of the way. After opening up the 2 shortcuts to ONS, I receive an SMS on my Blackberry Eye Orb, which tells me that my revenge is awaiting pickup at the front counter. My reward for dealing with this average PvP encounter is the Firekeeper soul so I can relight Firelink Shrine and the Ring of Masturbation. I never expect ONS to go well, so I engage my usual preparations by getting naked. Unfortunately, my unclothed beef jerky chest isn't enough, and my greed leads me to get myself killed. I guess I should have leveled resistance up more because I died a few times trying, but the winning attempt was only a 4-minute ordeal that was finished off with good old reliable power within. The pair of tits in this room gives me the big walk that allows me to warp, and I go do a few things on my housekeeping checklist before moving on. Like the first Hydra, I didn't want to break out a bow to deal with it, but once the remaining heads start to attack out of range, it becomes necessary to whittle away at the rest of its health for the 2 dragon scales lodged up its ass. With a +4 Drake sword in hand, I enter the painted world of Ariamis just for the sake of completion. I don't really need anything specific in this area, and I'm not looking to stick around thanks to the army of bone wheel skeletons down below, so I take the handy dandy little shortcut trick to open the front door and get my skin back so the cotton bud pyromancer can invade. Whips can't be parried, so I have to fight him the old-fashioned, less fun way, and then once he's dead, I mentally prepare myself to handle the horrors below. Well, goddamn. The slow and steady approach is best here, so these fuckers can't just gang up on you and dice you into ribbons, so after carefully separating and dealing with them, I'm able to open up the doorway to the exit, with only a couple of ruptured hemorrhoids to show for it. I guess Phalanx decided to crawl all the way over here from Demon Souls because I've got an entire welcoming party here on my way back out, so like the introvert that I am, I make my way to the undead dragon instead of dealing with that shit. Power Within was very helpful speeding this up, even if the camera is still trying to sabotage, but I make it work and add another precious dragon scale to my collection. The bottom half of the undead dragon is waiting for me here, and for reasons that I'd rather not know, performing a jump attack on it causes it to stand up and let you pass underneath it. I even tried to kill it with my remaining Power Within duration, but I guess I can't legally kill it without its consent, so once that runs out, I hop back to the bonfire and do some last minute kindling. Entering Priscilla's fog wall, I try to go for the soft fluffy tail right off the bat, but my first few swings are not quite enough. A couple of follow-up hits does the trick, and I'm even lucky enough to see her vape cloud attack shortly before she dies. God, I wish puzzle pieces made this sound when you fit them correctly. I hadn't decided who I should put the Lord Vessel down for just yet, but I ultimately went with Karth because the dark set is cool according to 20-year-old me, and Frampt is a whiny nub whose services I don't need in this run. This means the first Lord Soul boss that I kill needs to be the Four Kings, and with that boss fight being a damage race, I'm sure I'll have no problems. The only item worth caring about on the way to the boss fight is the Cursebite ring, which has a niche use later on, but just takes up space most times, so I keep it in my back pocket and begin my trip through some dark wraiths. And these weird jizz monsters that summon exploding skulls. Is the enemy design team okay? Jesus. Making sure I put the Covenant of Artorias on so I don't get immediately devoured by the tar pits that killed the dinosaurs, I begin the fight by dropping a prism stone, which much to my surprise falls through the abyss floor, which ruins my only reliable marker for where I landed. Great. Fortunately, I'm well aware of the intricacies of this fight by now, and know that just putting on some heavy armor and hugging each king as you wail on him is the best way to deal with this boss. A hitbox does exist near their sword handles, but it doesn't do anywhere near as much damage as getting hit by the meat of the blade does, much like the sweet spot mechanic in Demon Souls, so you can use that to your advantage in this fight, provided you don't take so long to kill one king that another one blindsides you, which is what Power Within also helps with. As soon as the boss fight ends and the bonfire spawns, you can take off the ring, and since I haven't placed the Lord Vessel in Framp's name yet, Karth shows up to take me to the kiln where I then place it and throw in the Four Kings soul. If you've revived the Firelink Shrine Firekeeper by using the Black Eye Orb through Lortrek's questline and placed any Lord Soul into the Lord Vessel, then you can talk to the Firelink Firekeeper and she'll max out the bonfire's kindling level for free, and being able to warp as well essentially means that I now have a very easy source of 20 Estus Flask charges for the remainder of the game. I also have the means to comfortably handle the Catacombs now due to downgrading the Occult Club that I picked up in Anor Londo, resulting in a +5 Divine Club, meaning that any skeleton I kill with it won't revive even while their associated Necromancer is still alive. I decide that now would be an excellent time to ditch the actual armor and get my fashion souls back on track, so I throw on the good old custard Q-tip and get to work clearing out the catacombs properly. The Necromancer here is kind enough to drop a skull lantern, which makes navigating the next area much less miserable, and there's also the ring that opens the Gwyndolin fight. On the way down, I run into this familiar looking guy who tells me about a stash of treasure down the hall behind him, but I think if it's so valuable then he can go get it himself. Thank you, Dark Souls. The only good part about respawning here is that I get to kick this cum stain into the hole repeatedly and it never kills him. Very satisfying. Game of the year or something. Entering Tomb of the Giants, through Paladin Leroy's stomach of course, there's nothing that I need down here, so I beeline it to Nito while making sure my club is ready to go. The divine effect of preventing skeleton reanimation works on the skeletons in Nito's arena, so with that ready in my back pocket, I enter and take my enforced fall damage. Thank you, Dark Souls! For the sake of maximizing the already untamable power of the Drake Sword, I throw on Power Within and start going to town. As long as you don't approach the far end of the arena, then the big skeletons won't notice you, and Nito goes down in just over a minute. I now have exactly enough dragon scales to max out my Drake Sword, so with that at +5, I'd go to bully Shiva and his ninja bodyguard a little bit, until they cough up the Dark Wood Grain ring. I won't be using this very often, I just like how cool the flip looks and I wanted the ring. I don't usually care to talk to the Crestfallen Warrior enough to get him to go hollow in New Londo, so after setting that up, I go to test out my Hornet Ring empowered +5 Drake Sword on his internal organs. Yeah, 848 damage is alright I guess. I proceed to give 30 humanity to Karth for the Edgelord set and contemplate which boss I'm going to subject myself to next. There's only Lost Izalith left to do before the DLC, so I begin my journey into the depths of hell itself. Dying to the cock monster isn't the most prideful way I've died in this, but I thought I'd at least show you how I went back to being hollowed, and with Laurentius going the way of the dodo, the next pyromancer that comes to mind is Aingi, so I go get +10 from him. Demon Fire Sage is vulnerable to fire because I guess they forgot to code that into this boss when they were copy-pasting Asylum Demon, Stray Demon, but the tried and true Power Within plus Drake Sword proves more than enough to take it down. Centipede Demon is immediately after that, so with some carefully coordinated fashion souls to make sure I look awesome while staying barely under the 50% fat roll threshold, and having the added bonus of looking like the giant dad's inbred cousin Darksack, I go into the fog wall to begin the fight. I usually fight Centipede Demon in this corner since it's a habit I developed from many previous fights with it starting from years back, and while it's better to fight it in front of the fog wall, I figure it's probably a good idea to stick with what I'm used to. It takes 2.5 minutes with this boss's physical defense and HP being high, along with jumping all over the damn place, but he eventually goes down to a minor case of total health loss. Pro tip, keep a Homeward Bone ready to use so you can tell that you're about to be invaded in advance. This can be used to great effect here to ensure that you only have to deal with Kirk rather than both Kirk and the Pyromancer just up the stairs. Now it's time to begin the one nobody's been waiting for, the Dark Souls of Dark Souls, the boss of all time, Bed of Chaos. I would rather fight 50 dudes in armor from Dark Souls 2 than this piece of shit boss fight that was so bad that the devs actually apologized for it, and I have no problems abusing quit out so I don't have to run the marathon back to the fog wall when I inevitably fall victim to gravity here. 2 weak points and 1 popped blood vessel later, I'm back in for the easy bit, which is just a case of rolling down a corridor and stomping on a giant flea. I end up getting bonfire blocked by the armored boars here, so rather than cheese them by getting them stuck between the pillars and trying to cut them down, I instead elect to press on so I can at least kill the crystal golem here for the key to the DLC. Much like the ones in the Undead Parish, the nearby channeler can buff the basic enemies and cause them to tear you to pieces in just a few hits, so after carefully managing to make it through that, the crystal guy up the stairs on the way to Seath is far easier to deal with. As for Seath himself, I usually like to throw in the Cursebite ring and a regular ring of sacrifice, or just a rare ring of sacrifice for the mandatory death here. I don't like to do the Seath skip with the elevator here because I'm shit at it, but it would also mean I don't get to experience this super awesome time-wasting mandatory death. Yay. Waking up inside Horny Jail, I roll a natural 20 for the speech check to persuade the guard to let me out. There's 2 snake men and 1 shithead tossing lightning at me to deal with, but as long as you don't rush in, which can lead to death by stunlock, they shouldn't be too bad. Key get, and it's time to blow this popsicle stand. Onto the Crystal Cave, which is a straightforward path to the boss during which I easily kill all 3 crystal lizards here. I knew you wouldn't let me down, Drake Sword. The Seath fight has a unique quirk where the first time you enter it, any enemies following you can end up inside the boss arena with you, which isn't great, but at the same time it also places you between the crystal and Seath instead of you being at the entrance and having to go all the way over to it to begin the fight. If you want the Moonlight Greatsword, you can take advantage of this by goading Seath into destroying his own crystal and using the wind-up time to get behind him and go for the tail. The clams complicate things if they make it into the boss room, and dying slows things down even more. Shocker, I know. So attempt number 2 is the first clamless attempt, and the last attempt I need to take down Seath. Super easy boss fight even if you've got the Fair and Balanced Curse to deal with, and Seath bites the dust after taking a repeated onslaught to the ball. Shut your whore mouth, Frampt. Even though the door to the kiln is open now, there's still the DLC left to go before the last hurrah. The DLC throws me directly into the frying pan against Sanctuary Guardian. My defenses are so high that I'm only in any real danger of dying if I do a bad roll that gets me comboed, and my damage output can, as always, be supplemented with Power Within, so a 1-minute fight is all it takes to kill it. While I was in the middle of looking at the pretty dragon, I made sure to let the Stone Knight hit me to give it some extra confidence, and after making it to the next checkpoint, I take a quick detour to upgrade my Estus Flask. Through completely ethical means, of course. Moving on. Artorias is my next target, and my damage against him is slightly lacking, although I am able to knock him out of his buffing animation after spending 4 business days chipping away at his health bar. His physical defense is so high that my damage output makes Power Within look like it doubles my damage in this fight instead of the 40% boost it really provides, but luckily I do really enjoy this fight, so I don't mind. The enemies in the township aren't very hard to deal with, especially if you can parry, except for the mages here that can lob a dark orb at you, which does shitloads of damage, but even those aren't too hard to deal with as long as you don't just rush in and mash R1 until one of you falls over. Marvelous Chester invades here if you're in human form, and he's some kind of fake invader in that you can still use Homeward Bones while he's in your world. He also has a handful of moves that no other invaders have, specifically a roundhouse kick and throwing roses at you. How romantic. The next thing I need is the Crest Key, so I put my fist right up this mimic's ass and fish it out, then carve my way through the enemies here. The mages are the biggest threat and the ever-present stunlock is still a thing, but it's manageable enough by using the terrain to my advantage. The Chasm of the Abyss is your checkpoint before Manus, so I make sure to fully kindle it, and then Manus himself is piss. His health pool being the highest in the entire game is thankfully somewhat mitigated by his defense being lower than Artorias's, and when he breaks out the dark magic, I make sure to break out the silver pendant so I've got a lifeline against that. Hey, I can pretend the Drake Sword is a good weapon until the end of time, but I have to give it genuine credit where it's due. The base damage being so high and its DPS due to being a longsword actually works wonders here. I even managed to finish Manus off here with a two-handed R2 right after his 5-hit wombo combo for extra style points. Glad that's not a bad habit of mine that I'm enabling or anything. Manus isn't the last optional boss I've yet to kill though, as I did forget about Gwendolyn, but he's not going to be a problem, especially at this stage of the game. This fight is easy as always. Roll through the big magic blast, take cover behind a pillar on the side for the scatter shot, rush him diagonally so he doesn't shoot you with whatever 5-shot burst crossbow he's using, and slash away until he teleports. Rinse and repeat, piss easy boss fight. With that, the only boss I have left to kill is in the heart of the kiln of the first flame, so my last journey begins. The build was complete ever since the Drake Sword reached +5, so I'm more than confident enough in my ability to reach the credits. Sometimes I'm wrong. Anyway, if we ignore my multitude of amateurish fuck-ups that result in 2 deaths, Gwyn's no different than usual with just 5 riposts bolstered by power within, being all it takes to put him down. With Gwyn's blood on my Drake Sword and his soul in my pocket, I throw on my symbol of avarice and become the best looking Dark Lord that this world will ever see. The entire From Software action RPG series has become so popular at this point that I found myself having genuine difficulty thinking of some unique or original challenge runs for it that were more than just a novelty, and this run did a great job of making me play through it in a way that I never ordinarily would. And yes, this video is a big April Fool's joke. I have over a solid month in this game, and I know that using the Drake Sword past Sense Fortress or leveling resistance at all is a terrible idea. I'm not joking when I say this game is a shit recycling of Demon Souls, and I wish I didn't spend as much time in it as I did, but this run did provide me with a fun and unique reason to replay it. So thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye.